Higher.
Exactly. Oh, good morning, everybody. We are politically speaking today, Thursday, May 20th, 2021. I'm trying to turn this thing down. It's really loud in my ear. For Adam Jarchow and Patty Schachtner, I'm Ben Dryden, and you're watching our 5th episode of Politically Speaking with Adam and Patty. Patty, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, Adam. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I want to start off with something before we go any further. Fitzy and I started doing this little trivia thing a couple times throughout our show. We've been doing sports, but bear with me. So I want to ask you, it's a trivia question. I'll do one now and one in the middle of the show. If you know the answer or you have a guess, hold off for like 10 seconds. I'm going to give you 10 to 15 seconds to think about it. So the question is, oh no. There it is. What was the first capital of Wisconsin before relocating to Madison? Do you guys want multiple choice here? I can give you like 4 options.
Yes.
Okay. Belmont, Dodgeville, Fort Atkinson, Milwaukee. First capital of Wisconsin before relocating to Madison. But first, a reminder, Politically Speaking with Adam and Patty is presented by Kirkpatrick Law Offices. Matthew Kirkpatrick provides experienced, professional, efficient, and effective representation in criminal defense, collections, and other legal areas. For more information, you can find Kirkpatrick Law Offices on Facebook or simply go to mzklawyer.com. mzklawyer.com. Quick programming note, next week, Fitzy and I will be back for another Positive Tuesday show. Well, obviously on Tuesday, and then a week from today, on Thursday next week, I'll be chatting with Sawyer County Judge John Yackel. So, what do you guys, does anyone feel they have the answer here for what is the first capital of Wisconsin before relocating to Madison?
Dodgeville.
I have no idea.
All right, so you're going Dodgeville. So there was Belmont, Dodgeville, Fort Atkinson, and Milwaukee. You got guess one.
Also Milwaukee.
All right, it was Belmont.
Mm.
I don't even know where that is.
Really?
I had to Google it this morning.
I
It's like a
don't-
township of like 900 people or something. I don't know.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Is it in the southern part of the state?
Everything's
I
in
have
the
no
southern
idea.
part of the state.
Oh, man. If it's not on the Apple River, it doesn't matter. So I'm just saying.
All right, so it's been a month. Quickly, I just want to kind of, I don't know, what have you guys been up to? Anything going on in your life that you want to share?
Well, everything is opening up, which is exciting. We have a family wedding. We had a wedding last week. We have another wedding this week, so it made it even more fun. And just reestablished my position on the Turning Point board of directors. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Turning Point, what's that?
It's a shelter for victims of domestic violence.
And you're on their board, you said?
Yes. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yep.
Good
Yeah.
for you.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, you should be.
Coming from the perspective as a death investigator, I've only seen the lethality of domestic violence. So it's interesting perspective to see how we got there.
Yeah.
And so it's a passion of mine.
Adam, how about you?
I got a new gun.
Ooh, what kind?
I got a 300 blackout, and I even found ammo for it.
That sounds like a big one.
It's actually it's a pretty small gun. It's technically a handgun, but it kind of feels like a short rifle, but it's a handgun, and technically, so you have to go through both background checks, and I'm excited about it because I put in for a suppressor last year, and the suppressor will work on it if I ever get approved by the ATF.
Cool.
Two background checks? Or no, what was it?
Yeah, when you buy any long gun, you have to do your federal, it's called the FFL check, and then when you buy a handgun, you also have to do the state DOJ check. So you have to do both with the 300 blackout because it's technically a handgun.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh. So does it have a cute handle? Because that's what I look for.
Yeah, it's not cute, like it's not purple, but it's,
I'd say what color
but it
is
does
it?
have a handle.
Will it match your purse?
Yeah, right. It's an accessory after all.
my My wife got a robin's egg blue 9mm this winter. So.
Oh, nice, nice.
Good Lord. All right, we have a ton of things to get into. Just quickly, we want to, Patty, I know you want to talk about mental health awareness here in a second, but some of the items that we have written down to talk about was Governor Evers' call special session to expand access to health care. Then, of course, Republican leaders responded to that, which, of course, they were going to. We're going to talk about redistricting and gerrymandering and maps, what this looks like even for some of our area races around here. A lot more politics stuff in here, a lot more race things that we want to talk about, races, just to be clear. And I know we also want to touch on a little bit on hacking, cybersecurity, ransomware, and COVID, et cetera. So first, Patty, you wanted to make sure we mentioned that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. You have the floor.
I just want everyone to just be mindful that it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And one of the things that I'm working on is really focusing on men's health and men's overall wellness. And mental health is such a huge piece to that. As we look at the data, I recently did a presentation at Prevent Suicide Wisconsin. One of the things we've seen, and it's a nationwide trend, is the suicide amongst men is just continuing to increase. So in order to really have that conversation, we need opportunities like this one here today for men to step up and say, you know what, you're not alone. It's time to, make our mental health as accessible as our prostate checks and really talk about it. So mental health awareness for men is really going to be something that we need to talk about in overall wellness from now as things move forward, because it's very, very important.
Well, your sexism aside, that actually kind of makes sense. But if you could expand on that a little bit, men, guys are guys, and is it because the reason that you're bringing up the man, the male part of this is less likely to seek mental health? Is it not an acceptable type behavior or an action? Why is this kind of focused on men, or what you're talking about?
So all the data is real. I mean, through COVID, we've been able to actually focus on different data points that we never really looked at before. And if I look at my county, for the last 3 years, we've only had men die by suicide. So that's kind of frightening. And so then we started looking at other counties, and we were seeing this trend go on everywhere. And it's not 100% true. That's not saying women don't die by suicide. They do. But we are seeing it at such a huge rate and such a huge increase that we have to take a look at the whys. And is it because we don't utilize resources? Is it because there's so much stigma to it? What is it that when it comes to men's health and men's mental health, that the lethality seems to be much more acceptable to them per se than actual going for treatment, figuring out, what it is they can do to come up with strategies to cope with mental health. So it's something that, a lot of us that are in medical examiner's office and doing death investigation, we're seeing this, and it impacts every community. When that happens, it impacts the community, it impacts the schools, it impacts the churches, it impacts the business community. And it's not just folks that, we just think it's those people. I mean, it's professionals, it's clergy, it's law enforcement, it's military. It's huge. So we have to really take on this topic head on and really have some real open discussions about it. Yeah.
I know I had gone to a therapist or a mental health expert because, how is your mental health not on the top of your to-do list? I got a sock drawer I got to sort out. I don't got time to be worrying about that stuff. I think that's great points, and I think we should have more conversations about those. Adam, anything you want to chime in before we move on?
No, just
no.
I think Patty's right. But seek help. Even Tony Soprano could seek help. So if you're a man, you can seek help. If Tony can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Moving on here, we have Governor Evers. It was on Dreadwire, but it was sent out as a press release, and we have it as is on our website. Governor Evers calls a special session to expand access to health care. And then the second part was invest $1 billion in the state's economic recovery. But the healthcare part I thought was kind of a nice segue from that to this. And I want to read something to you, Adam. I'll read this. This is from I'm taking out just a part of that press release. Evers announced he is calling a special session to expand BadgerCare and invest the $1 billion in cost savings realized under the ARPA, which is the American Rescue Plan Act, in Wisconsin's economic recovery in more than 50 projects. ARPA provides an additional temporary fiscal incentive for states to adopt a provision to expand Medicaid. Under ARPA, Wisconsin would realize an estimated cost savings of $1.6 billion by expanding BadgerCare. Earlier this month, Republicans on the legislature's Joint Finance Committee gutted nearly 400 provisions from Governor Evers' Badger Bounce Back agenda in his 2021-23 biannual budget, including a provision to expand BadgerCare. I know there was a lot to that because there's several segments in here I want to kind of touch on. But first, your overall response to that is what?
So two things. This has been a Democrat hobby horse since Obamacare passed in 2009. So we've been talking about this now for over 10 years. And let me just be clear. We are not expanding Obamacare in Wisconsin. That came before the legislature like 100 times. The legislature has said we are not doing. I probably voted 100 times not to do it when I was in the legislature because this is the Democrats' favorite political talking point. Their absolute favorite thing to campaign on. And so they keep bringing it up. So the Republicans vote no on it. They keep bringing it up. The Republicans vote no on it. And the fact of the matter is, just think about it. Is your health care less expensive than before Obamacare? No. Is it better than before Obamacare? No. Do we have a coverage gap in Wisconsin? No. Is there any reason to expand Obamacare? No. Do we think that it makes a lot of sense for us to take some federal money, put a bunch of people more on the rolls, and then depend on a government that's $30 trillion in debt to continue to pay for their health care? No. The legislature is doing 100% the right thing by continuing to reject the expansion of Obamacare in Wisconsin.
Patty, I'm just gonna take a guess here that you may not agree with that.
Well, you are correct. I don't agree with that. And 70% of Wisconsinites in a poll said that they wanted the expansion. So Wisconsinites want it, and 70% of the people polled, say they want it. So that's the big thing. And as far as, having access, this money is money that we send to the federal government as taxpayers. And either we can bring it back here to Wisconsin, or we can send it to Mitch McConnell in Kentucky in that really, really poverty-stricken state. And, and let them reap the rewards of our tax dollars. And that's what we're doing. And it's all basically done on philosophy. There is a philosophical, thing that we can't do anything that is for the American Health Care Act or Obamacare. When the reality is, we have these GOP-led legislators who get taxpayer-funded Cadillac healthcare. I know because I had that program, and they're the ones that are saying, "Oh, I have the best healthcare, but you don't really deserve it." And if I felt as a legislator, when that was the first time in my working career I ever had access to my own health care, that it was very affordable and actually cheaper than the health care we had before. So I think we should have, everyone in Wisconsin should have access to the exact same health care that the people who make the decisions have. Because why should we have less? And why should we expect the folks in Wisconsin to have less than what the decision makers have?
Adam?
Yeah, well, the solution to that is to get rid of the health care for legislators, stop paying them, and make it a part-time gig instead of this nonsense where they think it needs to be full-time, not to put everybody in the state on this incredibly expensive health care.
Oh, I've never heard of that before.
Whoa!
Seriously, that's okay. So, Patty, if that was the case, so if you're saying that the people that are making the decisions, everyone should have the access to the same health care, Now let's actually just play that through a little bit, and it probably never happened, but let's hypothetically, they don't have access to that, and they are like a lot of us. Do you still think that we should be doing this?
I think Adam is 100% right, because if our legislators didn't have access to healthcare, they'd be working a lot harder to figure out solutions so that everybody had coverage. Right now, it's pretty easy to stand up on top of the hill telling all of us, what crumbs we can have and what we can't have. But if they were part of the sausage making, actually, maybe we'd get something done. So. Right. Adam, I agree with you.
Nice.
Take away health care from all legislators. Now you talk to Rob and ask him to write a bill.
Yeah.
The scary thing is he might do it.
Do it.
So right after that, of course, the GOP leadership put out a press release, and I just want to read a part of this. And this is, Pat, if you want to kind of take this one first. And it says, quote, in Wisconsin, there is no coverage gap between BadgerCare and the heavily subsidized federal exchanges. Everyone who wants insurance in our state has access and options. Our unique to Wisconsin solution is working, and we will not shift tens of thousands of people off their private insurance to a government-run system. The governor says this special session is about BadgerCare, but this bill is nothing more than a mini budget advanced by the governor because he didn't get his way through the normal budget process. The governor has spent the last few months specifically keeping legislators out of the process. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that is a typical response from GOP Republican male leadership who spends more on their hair care products than they do on thinking about solutions for
Robin doesn't even
care.
have hair. Come on.
Have you seen Devin's hair? Come on.
Hey, now play nice.
I mean, but again, I work in my work in the real life is at the end of life. I see the ramifications. Yes, everyone has access to healthcare, but if you have a $25,000 deductible, you have to make some really hard decisions. If you have a $10,000 deductible, you have to make some really hard decisions, and people are making these decisions every day. And again, the people in legislation do not have to make those choices. So they are out of touch with the reality of what healthcare costs to people in Wisconsin. I see it every day.
Adam, any response to that? Actually, let me ask you this, because I love it when you talk about the political aspect of this. So is this one of those things that we had talked about in a previous episode regarding the mask mandate, emergency orders, et cetera, where it wasn't about agreeing or disagreeing, it was this isn't how we do it. So in that response, they had said this bill is nothing more than a mini budget advanced by the governor because he didn't get his way through the normal budget process. Is this just people playing games here, and he's trying to get something through that it didn't go through the normal process, and that is a concern? Or do you have no problem with that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no, right? There really is a fundamental policy disagreement at the heart of this. But the special session is clearly all politics. That was just to get some press releases out there. He knew the legislature will gavel in and gavel out. It's not going to happen, but he wanted the press that he called the special session on it. He wants to beat up the Republicans when they gavel out, whenever they hold this session. So yeah, there is a fundamental policy disagreement. But certainly resolving that policy disagreement is not going to be done this way. And it's probably not going to be resolved. I mean, this is one of those things, right, where we just have a fundamental disagreement, and I doubt we're really going to come together on it.
Oh.
I would agree. I think the Republicans really do believe that if you can afford good health care, you deserve it. And if you can't afford it, you're on your own.
Let's see, that's not exactly what I heard, but...
Wow.
That's what I heard.
Okay, let's move on let's talk about redistricting and gerrymandering's maps. Last I had heard that was kind of being delayed because of census, and I don't remember why the census was delayed. Do we know at this point if, with the elections coming up for next year, is this going to get done now, or will we know if these maps are changed this year, or is it before the next election? Do either of you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's going to be worked on. I know the People's Maps Coalition are working on it. I know there's been a couple arguments from the state Supreme Court on the map building. So I know it's going to happen. It's just going to be interesting to see how weird the maps look. It'll be interesting.
Sure. Adam, is this, from your knowledge, is this going to get done this year? And if so, by whom?
Yeah, it will. You're right. The census was late. So last time this happened was in 2011, right? Right when Walker took over and the Republicans took over the legislature, and they did it, late spring, early summer, if I remember correctly.
Behind closed doors with confidentiality clauses.
Throw that in there.
Because they're so transparent.
They passed a bill in public, just like every other bill, and the governor signed it. So that will happen, but the difference will be Tony Evers will veto whatever the Republicans come up with, so it will end up in the courts. The interesting question is it going to end up in the federal courts or the state court? Last time it ended up in the courts, the state court kicked it out because they kind of said, well, we don't really have procedures for how to deal with this. But they said that they were going to adopt some procedures. They haven't. A public interest law firm asked them to adopt procedures. They said, no, we're not going to do that right now. So it's not clear whether it'll be in state or federal court, but the courts essentially will draw the maps this time. My guess is that means the maps will be pretty similar to what they are now. There's a few districts in southeastern Wisconsin that are required to be the way that they are because of the Voting Rights Act. But otherwise, the districts in Wisconsin have already been approved by the courts. And so my guess is there'll be some changes, right? Because populations change, but there won't be massive changes to the districts. Whoever your congressman, state assembly, state senator are, they're likely to be pretty close. I mean, you could see, for example, I'm sitting in Clear Lake right now in Polk County. Back a long time ago, before the last redistricting, Clear Lake was in the 10th Senate District. When that got redistricted, the line moved one township over, and so then Clear Lake was in the 75th, and then I can't remember what Bewley's district number is there for her Senate seat. 25th and 75th. So there'll be minor changes, but I don't think there'll be huge changes.
Sure. Patty, if that is how this is going to end up in the court, when I look and I get press releases about this stuff at Governor Evers and a lot of Democrats, what's it called, the Fair Commission, they put this commission together, right, for fair and equal maps. I can't remember what it was called. So they've gone around, they've done listening sessions, they're putting a lot of time, energy, and effort into this. But if they kind of know, here's how it's going to end up in the courts. So why do all of that?
Well, I think it's like anything that you're passionate about. If you really want to talk about fairness and all that, you have to be engaged in these type of conversations and bring the conversation to the people. I guess for me, I never really knew a whole lot about gerrymandering and all that until, the last couple of years. And then as I look at it and stuff, I mean, there are some lines that you're like, okay, come on, that's pretty weird. But I had to go on Kickstarter and get the game Gerrymanderer to actually understand how it works. And we play that game all the time. And it really shows you how easy it is to manipulate areas based on numbers. And it really is a numbers game. But I think people are wiser now. And when we talk about gerrymandering, I mean, do boundaries really matter? I mean, Shannon Zimmerman doesn't live in the district that he represents, but he's there. So we know that boundaries don't matter when it comes to the GOP.
Would you be fine with the court making this decision?
Everything has become so politicized, no matter who makes the decision, unless it's the people, no one's going to agree with it. There's always, the only way that people will agree with it is if people are involved. If it is something that is done in the courts, I mean, people don't trust the courts. And if it's done by legislation, people don't trust legislation. So the real issue we have is a trust issue. Nobody trusts anybody anymore. And it doesn't matter where it is. So I think we've created this environment that we're always looking for a way to find out what's wrong instead of looking towards solutions.
It's a lot more fun for me. So, Adam, we were talking about, Janet, that's the 25th Senate District. I have heard that would be something that could potentially change. Maybe not a ton, maybe a little. I know, no, that's the Assembly seat. But speaking of Janet Bewley, she is the top Democrat pretty much at this point, with the exception of the governor in Madison as the Senate Minority Leader. Is this going to impact her race if that gets moved at all? If I recall, 3 years ago, it was 51-49 she lost to Bewley. She seems vulnerable. Do you think if the map stayed the same, she's fine? Or if if it gets moved a little bit, in whichever way in this case, courts may be deciding, is she more vulnerable? How do you think that's going to affect her in the 25th?
It's really hard to say. So let's just game this out. So if you had a Democrat legislature and a Democrat governor, they would make her safe. That's how they would draw the map. If you had a Republican governor and a Republican legislature, they're going to try to figure out a way to marginally change the borders to make her less safe, right? Because you're right, it was only a 2-point race. So they're going to try to find a few more sort of conservative townships that are on the edge to stick in there, and then take a couple of places that are less conservative and put them somewhere else. So that's kind of the game that gets played around the margins. I think, though, that her district won't change very much, would be my guess, maybe a little bit. And I think she's really on the bubble. That district has continued during sort of the Trump years to trend red. You see Nick Milroy is one of the Democrat Assembly members in that district, and he won by like 60 votes or something. Romaine Quinn really was running up the margins, and so was Dave Armstrong. And so then you really only have that one other district there that's pretty solid Democrat, which is held by Beth Myers. So I think Bewley would be in trouble. And I think if Romaine runs, I'd probably put my money on Romaine winning that race.
Romaine Quinn for Senate?
Yeah.
All right, so if anyone doesn't know,
he needs better insurance. He needs to get better insurance. He's got a family. Why else would you not run? Good God.
Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know, Romaine Quinn was in the Assembly as a Republican in the 75th for a number of years.
Career politician.
Well,
I didn't have any other.
Janet's been in longer than Romaine has. Is she a career politician?
Yes. Oh. I think we have a lot of career politicians. I mean, come on. I think that, we have to have conversations about what that means when you get comfortable in your roles. It's like that's not how it is for us in the regular working class, right? We have to continually perform and do our stuff and work for pay and all that there. But in legislature, I mean, and Adam, you were in it just as well as I was. You get to do whatever you want, and you reap the rewards of it. You either get to be really, really involved or not so involved, and you reap the rewards. So I think that, career politicians do not do themselves any favors, and they do not do constituents favors, because you have to, kind of be able to shake it up every now and then. And then when you have these majorities that happen, and folks, you can't blame the Democrats for everything when we've had Republican leadership since 2010. If things are crappy, look to the legislature, but it's real easy to say it's the Democrats' fault when a Democrat has only been in the governor's office for 2 years now, 3 years. So I mean, we just buy the BS. That's what we do.
So my understanding is then you must have voted for Trump in the presidential election and only been in for 4 years instead of Biden, who has 40 years. That's a career. So did you vote for Trump?
Well, I don't vote for sexual assaulters. That's my low bar. That's my low bar.
Okay.
Can we get back to Quinn?
Yes, we can. Yeah, and that's where I was going with that. For people who don't know, he was there for a number of years, not like 12 or something. I don't know, like 6 years maybe. I think I don't know.
Yeah.
But then he had resigned to start a family, and they just had a kid. And then also, he's doing the real estate thing, which I think is going very well. So if that's going even better, like if anyone wants Romaine Quinn to run, stop calling him and selling your house, because the more money he's making, why would he do it? Yeah, but I have no idea.
Insurance.
For the free insurance.
For the insurance.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny though. I mean, the 25th is a very large district, and obviously that even covers Superior, and I don't know people up there. But in our area, our 6-county coverage area, I think he would give Janet a run for her money if she decided to run, because I don't know if she's running. I assume she is, but maybe she wants to retire. But yeah, I could see that. And I haven't heard of any other names either.
I think
I think young people should get involved. I think it would be great to see more young people. Who?
Romaine. He's young.
Quinn?
He's like 30.
Romaine? Yeah, he is young. He's a whippersnapper. He hasn't had any real life
I know. I hate that about him, too. Yeah.
I think there's a 50-50 chance that Janet won't run again, to be honest with you. And if she doesn't run, I think that really puts that seat in play. And I have no idea if Romaine would run again or not. You're right. I think he likes his life in the private sector and is doing well. So I don't know if he would want to get back into this nonsense. And that district is massive. It's gigantic. It's like almost the size of Tiffany's district. So it takes a lot of commitment to want to do that stupid job. So I hope he does.
Yeah, but it does take a lot of time, and especially if you have a baby. I mean, that makes life way more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just now realized I've lost my other trivia question. Shoot. That's a bummer. Man, hold on. It was such a good one, too. I was going to stump you. Hold on. Okay, I'm just going to do it by memory. According to Wisconsin Stories, Wisconsin has more blank per capita than any other state. So according to Wisconsin Stories, Wisconsin has blank more per capita than any other, or reports. That's what it was. Sorry. Blank reports than any other state. Boy, I'm just totally killing that here. Oh, shoot. I wish I had that. All right. So do you understand the question?
Yes.
Okay. You're watching Politically Speaking with Adam and Patty, presented by Kirkpatrick Law Offices. Matthew Kirkpatrick provides experienced, professional, efficient, and effective representation in criminal defense, collections, and other legal areas. For more information, find Kirkpatrick Law Offices on Facebook or simply go to mzklawyer.com. mzklawyer.com. So I don't have a multiple choice on this one because it would give it away. So what does Wisconsin have, according to Wisconsin Stories, more per capita than any other state?
I'm going to go with waterfalls.
Okay. Adam?
Deer hunters.
It's ghosts. Yep. We have more ghosts per capita.
I've seen a few.
Yeah. I think it was like per square mile or something like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll shut that down. Let's move on here to a little more on the politics. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be announcing. I think some have already for multiple different races. And over the course of our future shows, we are going to be talking about a lot of those because, politically speaking, and of course, we're going to be talking about these things. So let's just kind of cover a few of them right now. Ron Johnson. Patty, is he vulnerable first?
I think he is. There are some things that come out of his mouth that I just really want to slap my head and my mother. I'm just like, good God. Just like, who said that? It's like, oh, man. And it's kind of embarrassing. It's some of the stuff that he says, and especially when it comes to the insurrection, that we can't believe what we saw, it's just causing such problems. And I think only more and more crap is going to come out, and it's just icky, and it'll be interesting to see what the candidates have to bring on the Democrat side, and to start some interesting conversations, and having whoever the candidate is debate Senator Johnson will be fascinating.
Do you have a favorite yet of the three?
No, you know what? Someone had asked me that, and I am not going to really put my thumb on anyone because
Boo.
I want to see how it goes. I want to see what they're doing. I want to see how many times they come to our part of the state.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things that us up here in Western and Northwestern Wisconsin, we never get to see these candidates. So I want them to put up and show us how important our vote is. I'm not just giving my vote away.
Who are the three? I know Tom Nelson because he was on our show, but I don't know the other two.
Alex Lassery and Sarah Godlewski.
I don't know that. Oh, wait, that last name sounds familiar. The last one. Oh, wasn't she?
She's a state treasurer.
Yeah. All right,
Yep,
Adam.
and Alex Lassery is former vice president of operations of the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh, yeah, never.
He's a rich kid from New York that got handed a basketball franchise from his hedge fund dad.
Well, there you go. So he sounds like the front runner already.
People.
Yeah.
Well, you'll be surprised. He'll have a lot of money. So
Right.
I think he'll be competitive actually.
So
And then-
as of right now,
and
who
then,
do you think is the front runner, and not who would win? Just which one right now is? Yeah, I could see them doing well.
Yeah, I don't really know. It's interesting. I'm not overly involved in sort of the inside of the Democrat politics, and I was surprised actually that Tony Evers was the one that came out of that primary. So, it really depends on what that electorate is feeling next August. And like I say, Lassery will have a lot of money, but the Democrats have kind of been this identity politics party. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see them nominate Sarah, and I don't ever know how to pronounce her last name, Godlewski, the state treasurer. She's already won a statewide election. So I think she'll be formidable. If Mandela Barnes gets in the race, that would really shake things up as well. And of course, Tom Nelson has been kind of a liberal favorite for a long time. So I think it'll be a really interesting primary, actually.
Patty, real quick on this one, do you think the Lieutenant Governor will jump ship, as it were, and go put his name in for Senate, or stay with Evers if he decides to run?
I really don't know. I don't have the inside view.
Well,
but I mean, I think there are opportunities, there. And I think he if he wants to, he has the power and the clout to do it. He too has won a statewide race, so he's got name recognition, except with Ben Dryden, and
Yeah. So just a quick note there. I couldn't. They'd ask about is Mandela going to get in the Senate race, and I asked before the show went live. I'm like, who's Mandela? And then it hit me before they even answered. I'm like, wow, I'm an idiot. Thinking like Nelson Mandela. I'm like, I think he's dead.
Oh God.
All right. So what about the attorney? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think it'll be interesting, but it's too early really to say anything.
Yeah, but that's why it's so fun. We're
I know.
Attorney General race. Josh Call is there. Obviously, now has he announced if he's going to seek re-election or not?
I don't think so, but he will. I mean, him and Evers are both going to run. They're
sure. And there's a couple of people. Adam, you put these in. I don't know these people either. Owens and Tony. There are two Republicans have declared. Who are these two?
Eric Toney is the DA in Fond du Lac County, and Ryan Owens is a law school professor and leads the Tommy Thompson Center at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, kind of a longtime Republican sort of political activist at the university.
Do you think that the AG is vulnerable?
I think everyone is vulnerable right now. I think Ron Johnson, I think Patty's right. Ron, this is a purple state. So I think it's likely because of the dynamics of having the White House being controlled by a Democrat. Historically, that's a better year for Republicans and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So I think it'll be an okay year for Republicans if we don't screw it up. So I think Ron Johnson, if he does run, could win, but a purple state. And if the other side runs a good candidate, he could lose too. It's not a gimme. That's for darn sure. I think Tony Evers is vulnerable, but certainly not a gimme. Josh Call is vulnerable, but certainly not a gimme either. I think they'll all be 52-48 kind of races like we always have in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Patty, sorry?
And I think a lot of it is really going to come down to the highly populated areas. I mean, us in rural Wisconsin think that we have a big voice in this, and it might help in our local and assembly and legislature. But when it comes to statewide, the numbers really are where the numbers are. And it's going to be interesting to see what the organizing looks like by 2022.
Well, Patty, you being the resident Democratic voice on the show, and Jarchow being a Democrat, if I told you that every sheriff that I have spoken with, every district attorney, every ADA that I've asked about Jarchow, what their views were, none of them have been positive. Now, some of them, just to be clear, they're not like horribly negative. Well, a few of them were. But this is supposed to be the top cop position in the state. What would you contribute that to?
I think that says a lot to the political environment that we are in, and the fact that we have politicized the position of law enforcement in our sheriff races. When you look at someone like Tracy from Burnett County, who ran as an independent and won, and I mean, that says a lot about it, and it says a lot about creating trust. And I think in these days and these times, when you're trying to operate as the top cop, and then at the county level you're the top cop, and the first thing you say is put out press releases that don't agree with mandates that the governor puts out, and you get to pick and choose what laws you're going to enforce and what you're not going to enforce based on COVID, it makes for a very, very complicated situation. And now, like a couple of weeks ago, I saw a truck that had the thin blue line sticker on the back, and I will not comply on the same truck. And that says a lot about where we are in a system right now when it talks about justice. So I almost wish that there was no political affiliation, that we didn't know where our law enforcement officers, our top cops stood politically, because I don't think it helps our situations. And I think that's a prime example of it.
Are you referring to a couple, I think Sheriff Walk in Polk? I don't want to misstate that. I think even a Washington County sheriff had put something out, and another sheriff regarding the mask mandate. Is that what you were referring to? Of not following things? Because if I recall that, it wasn't a law. I think they were just stating, what their policies and procedures were. Is that what you were referring to?
And it's like you look at things such as seatbelts. You can get pulled over, and maybe you won't get a ticket, maybe you will, but you support what the overall picture was. And I think in COVID, when the governor said that, put the mask mandate out there, if we would have at every step of the level, every step of leadership would have, supported it instead of politicizing it, law enforcement and Jarchow and everybody wouldn't be where we are right now, because we all know where folks stand, and it immediately draws a line in the sand, which is so unfortunate. I hate it. I have a lot of really good friends that are in law enforcement. My daughter was a cop. It's a horrible place to be right now because of politics, and it's not fair.
Adam, what are your thoughts?
So much of that I disagree with, Patty. So much, just about everything. So the reason that, to answer Ben's question, the reason that DAs and cops hate Jarchow is because he's objectively awful. He literally watched Kenosha burn last summer and couldn't be bothered to say anything about it. It is unbelievable to me that we keep talking about this insurrection at the Capitol, and we never talk about an entire summer of our cities burning down and Democrats doing absolutely nothing.
I have to push back on that. I have to push back on that. You talk to me about all the sexual assault kits that were never processed. So when it comes to women being sexually assaulted in Wisconsin, it didn't matter because Brad Schimmel did nothing. But when it comes to social injustice, all of a sudden everyone's pants on fire. Women have been victims in this state for a long time, and the people in charge did nothing for victims. And I take that personal.
Again, disagree. I think Schimmel did a pretty good job of clearing the backlog, although I was never a huge Schimmel fan when he was the AG. He was not my favorite AG, to be honest with you, but I do think Josh Call has really, really done a poor job in the kind of role as top cop. And that actually isn't much of what the DOJ does. They all talk about it because it's good politics.
Yeah.
What DOJ does is, our DAs have original jurisdiction in each of the counties for criminal cases. DOJ is there to kind of help and assist and to provide some background and support. But really, they do a lot of agency type work with the administrative agencies. And that's one of the reasons why I've been really excited to see Ryan Owens run. I'm not a fan of the other Republican, Eric Toney. He charged some business owners with violating the illegal stay-at-home order. So, I mean, I am never Toney. Like people used to be never Trump, I'm never Toney. I think Ryan Owens will be a good candidate, and I think he would make the race very competitive. And I think most importantly, he'd do a good job on the agency side. And that's mostly what DOJ actually does, regardless of what the politics say about top cop.
Yeah, and I don't know why or how that ever started, the top cop label, because it's not really accurate. But I'm sorry, Patty, go ahead.
So then if that is the case, then why do we put that role, if it's an agency oversight type thing, why do we even say that it's top cop? Because then we are misinforming everybody.
Yeah.
We're totally doing it wrong. And that there again comes up to legislators and everybody else that makes all these decisions, elevating these positions to something that they're not. And then what happens is sexual assault kits get left in coolers and freezers for decades. We have all these things that our courts are backed up, our jails are backed up, all this stuff is going on. If it is agency oversight, that is what the Attorney General does, and that's what the expectation is, then really it shouldn't be a political, it should be, what are your system's arguments? What are you going to do? But instead we play into, well, I support this or I support that, and it just helps split our communities.
I partially agree with that, but because I do think one of the things that gets left behind in politics is whether somebody's actually going to be a good manager, right? Whether is Scott Walker a good manager? Is Tony Evers a good manager? Is Josh Call a good manager of that department? They oversee massive bureaucracies, and the job is, to a large degree, CEO. I joked on Twitter this week that the legislature are really the people that do the heavy lifting and the hard work and make the laws, and governors are really just there for ribbon cutting ceremonies, and we should mostly ignore them. And I actually kind of feel that way. I wish we would mostly ignore the president and mostly ignore the governor, regardless of whether they're Republicans or Democrats, and mostly pay attention to what our legislators are doing, because those are the people who fundamentally are representing us and making laws that we want them to make, or repealing laws that we don't like.
Couldn't agree with you more. 100%. And on that note, Governor Evers. So that was the last one we have here. Who is running? So are we all just going to assume that Evers is running, or I guess in this scenario, we're just going to assume that he is going to run again? Obviously, Rebecca Kleefisch, it's like the worst secret, in politics for the last year. She's running. I mean, unless something crazy happens, she's running. Or Governor Barbie, I think is how I referred to her last time. I've heard Sean Duffy's name a lot, but I've also heard that he would be, if anything, maybe more Senate, but I don't really see him running for governor. Adam, being the kind of the Republican voice here, have you heard anything about Duffy running for governor?
Yeah, you hear scuttlebutt, but I don't suspect that he would do that. I think they're making money and doing fine financially, and I don't think he would have resigned in the middle of his term if he wanted to get back into the political world. He's a young man, so he could maybe someday. And actually, if you pay attention to who the popular one is in that family lately, it's his wife. So I wouldn't be surprised if someday Rachel puts her name on a ballot.
Yeah. Well, there's Jonathan Wickman. He came on the show. He has already announced. We obviously believe Kleefisch. Is there anyone else that you've heard? Patty, have you heard anyone else? Or Adam, have you heard anyone else? Or some rumors or some possibilities?
Yeah, I think we'll. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I think that if Ron Johnson runs for re-election, I think Kevin Nicholson, who ran for for the Tammy Baldwin Senate seat and lost to Leah Vukmir. I think he will likely run. Bill McCoshen, who used to work for Tommy Thompson, has been a lobbyist in Madison and Milwaukee area for a long time. He's from up in the Superior area, but he's lived in that area for a long time. I think he's likely to run. So we'll have, 2 to 3, maybe 4 on the Republican side. Wickman, is fascinating for now, but he won't get 3% of the vote. As soon as the big players announce, he'll be sort of long forgotten. But there'll be 3 or 4 that will run on the Republican side, I would guess.
Well, the next time we talk, I'll give you an update because, I really can't get into it right now. But I believe there'll be some interesting races in Washburn County, one specifically. But I'll tell you about that offline, and then we can talk about it online next time around. So the last question here about the Evers is, Patty, do you think Evers has earned another 4 years?
I do. I think the fact that he's came through and we're working so hard on COVID and now we have the rescue plan money and everything that's going forward. I think he's shown his leadership. I haven't heard anything in particular. I am like Adam. I'm assuming that he is going to run again, and I look forward to seeing what his vision is for 4 years from now.
Okay.
That was boring, right?
Yeah, okay. All right, so we have 2 final notes that we had written down. I know, Patty, that you also wanted to talk about real quick, and that is hacking and how we feel about cybersecurity and ransomware at the local, statewide, nationally, and globally. If you wanted to expand on that a little bit.
Well, I think when we think about rural Wisconsin, and Adam can probably agree with this here, we have so many of our rural governments that all the information is being run out of their homes, our clerks and all this here. And so, when we talk about, how easy it would be to hack into it, just that alone is something we should be aware of and really think about, because when I was on the town board, that was something we would go to our clerk's house to pay our taxes, and she would, type everything in and do all that. And that's a lot of information. And, we have to really think about that when, the biggest obstruction we have is lack of technology. And in a country that really advanced technology started here, we have really, really hurt ourselves by not really keeping up with the times and letting everybody else pass us by. And a lot of that has to go with the development of microchips, and we no longer do that here in this country. So when we have so many of our local townships and small rural counties that are doing stuff at home, that's just not good. And we have to really think about that and what our infrastructure looks like.
So if you were still a senator, you're down in Madison, what bill would you create to fix this?
Well, I think that there has to be something that you bring the people that do the work together. As a legislator, I could say, do this here, but I don't know what the work is of a clerk. I know some of it, but not all of it. And how do you bridge together a big city like Rice Lake and make sure that Trade Lake Township has the same kind of technology and that it's accessible to both in the same way? And when they're not, that's how inequities happen.
Adam, in the time that you were down in the legislature, did you ever see any of these discussions happening? And if so, obviously nothing major has gotten done, but were there other things that did get done? Has this ever been a discussion in the time that you were in Madison?
If it was, I avoided it like the plague. I am the least tech savvy Gen Xer on the planet.
I can vouch for that, actually. Yes.
If the computer doesn't turn on, I don't know how to do it. But I will say this: I think we're talking about this because of the pipeline hack that resulted in the high gas prices and actually no gas in parts of the country. And the one thing that I would say about that, the first thing I thought, especially after I heard they paid the ransom, is I hope that our federal government is treating that like an act of war. I hope someday some Navy SEAL puts 2 bullets in the head of whoever did that, and whatever, what did Trump call them? Shithole countries, and whatever shithole country they're operating out of. I hope a Navy SEAL gives them a double tap for that. Is a national security issue if they're able to hack into our pipelines and cause us to have gas shortages. And I hope we treat it as such.
Mm-hmm. I think it's good. I think it's a real problem. I think that, we need to really look at this, and everything's local. So we need to look at our local townships and our local clerks and see, how the fact that someone could do that for a pipeline, just think how simple it would be to do it at a township level.
I'm just waiting for a bill that gets passed that makes it illegal to send spam email. Like, do that. Like, make something that actually matters to me. That. Yeah. I'm tired of getting those things. Last thing on here is just we didn't get a chance to really get into any COVID or masks, because that's always a fun topic. But I'll leave it with this. What's one good thing that has come out of COVID for you? Or maybe not necessarily for you, but in your opinion.
For me, it has really been able to refocus on what's important in our life and what's important with our family, and cutting out the BS. It's been quite peaceful, and I don't know that we'll ever go back to wasting a lot of time, money, and energy on things that really didn't matter.
Adam?
Nothing. It's horrible. Yes. It's been an awful year. Everything about it has sucked.
Everything's the worst.
Sucked. It's just it's been terrible for our country. We're $30 trillion in debt. Our businesses are terrible. We've had lots of people that have now gone out of the workforce. We've had fights over stupid things like masks for a year. There is nothing good or redeeming about COVID. I can't wait till it's gone and we can just get back to normal life.
I'm never going to invite you on as a guest for Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy.
No kidding. God. Well, I think that's so interesting, especially when we know our sales tax revenues are up in our counties. So it's hard to I think that we need to really pay attention to that. And I know in our county, our sales tax revenue are up. So that's interesting.
They are, because Tim Walz closed his state and the Republican legislature made sure our state was open.
Yes. Nice little dig there. I love it.
There you go. Money's money.
Oh, my goodness. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Anything coming up for either of you? Plans, personal life, professional life, whatever. Anything coming up that you wanted to, tell us about?
Big wedding of my niece tomorrow.
Yes.
Super excited about it.
Congratulations.
Yep. Super excited.
Cool. Adam,
her fiance is a Navy pilot, so he's coming home, getting married, and they're heading back to Pensacola.
Is he taking a company plane on taxpayer dollars?
Spirit.
Okay. Adam, anything coming up? I'm assuming you're going to go hunt and kill, or anything you're going to be shooting soon?
Nope. It's fishing season. I'll be doing. I've got a Boundary Waters trip planned with my brother and one of my buddies. So I did the Boundary Waters first time last year. Had never done it before, and I can't believe it took me 40 years to do it. It was so much fun. I can't wait to go
awesome.
back.
I can't wait to see pictures. Take pictures and put them on your Facebook page.
I've never been there.
No, I haven't either. I heard great things about it, though.
I don't know, that portaging your canoe just doesn't sound fun to me.
No. No. Any manual labor or physical work, I'm not for. No, thank you. Pretty much anything outside, as we've talked before. Nope. No, thank you. And speaking of that, this weekend, I'm very much looking forward to sitting inside on Sunday morning and watching, because I've already started this morning, watching the first practice of F1 Monte Carlos this Sunday. Last few years, I've totally gotten into F1 racing. So I watched every single one of them, including all the practices and the qualifying. It's like a 4-day thing. But Monte Carlo's huge. So that's going to be awesome Sunday morning. That's what I'll be doing, and avoiding outside like the plague, because there's COVID out there.
Saturday's going to be hot, like 85. Isn't Saturday supposed to be 85 degrees?
It'll be 68 degrees in my house. You've been watching Politically Speaking with Adam and Patty, presented by Kirkpatrick Law Offices. Attorney Matthew Kirkpatrick provides experienced, professional, efficient, and effective representation in criminal defense, collections, and other legal areas. For more information, you can find Kirkpatrick Law Offices on Facebook or simply go to mzklawyer.com. For Adam Jarchow and Patty Schachtner, I'm Ben Dryden saying thank you for watching, and we'll see you next month. Until then, stay safe, be positive, stay indoors, and have a blessed day.